Coming up now in studio, I've got Jeff Hocker, who is certainly well known in this valley. He's in public relations, but he also represents a lot of very important and interesting organizations. And he's here today to talk about the Idyllwild Arts summer program. And I'm also going to be talking to Tony Soares. Is that how you pronounce it? Soares. Excuse me, Tony. I'm talking to him on the telephone. He's a local artist that lives in Joshua Tree, and he's going to be teaching a course at the Arts Academy. So welcome, Tony, and welcome, Jeff.
Thank you.
Hey.
Okay, Jeff, I want to start with you. Let's give the Reader's Digest overview, just to start with, of the Idyllwild Arts Summer Program and who it's affiliated with and where it is, and go from there.
Well, the Idyllwild Arts Summer Program started a little over 60 years ago, and each year they train about 1,800 students from kindergarten all the way up through high school, all the way up through really in any age. You know, what we say is the golden years. There are three really distinct programs. One is the children, which is the Children's Center, and it's this amazing area up in Idyllwild on the campus of Idyllwild Arts, and there's 6 open-air what we call studios. They're really classrooms, but they're studios where these kids can take dance, theater, creative writing, art classes. And one of the ones that I really like is a class where they teach them rhythm. So they have all these different types of instruments. And, you know, again, these kids are like 7 or 8 years old, and they're up there really learning the basics of what rhythm is all about, so they can go on and study music. Then there's the Teen Center, and that's where, you know, a little bit more advanced classes. And then, of course, there's a very extensive adult program, which Tony is a part of. Tony will be teaching 2 classes. He's going to be talking about one of them today. But the adult class, there's about 115 different courses that you could take during the 2-month period.
And is that what's called the family camp?
Well, let me talk about that in a second.
Okay, Jeff.
the summer program is June 27th through August 21st. And again, you know, you can take classes from beginning to expert. A lot of times artists want to come back and take classes because they want to advance their career. You know, the instructors that are part of the summer program come in from all over the United States and Canada, and sometimes abroad, and they're the finest that can be found in their particular category of art. The family camp is really kind of a cool concept. It actually is starting July 3rd, and it goes through July 9th, so it's over the 4th of July weekend. Mm-hmm. And it's an opportunity for families. The price is around $1,200 for a family of 4, and it's an opportunity for the family to really reconnect with each other. There are no TVs, there's no radios. You know, the family comes up and they can take art classes together or separate, depending upon what your interest level is. And, you know, at night there's singing and dancing and, you know, campfires and all those things that you would expect from a kind of a camp situation.
And that's not a bad price for a family of 4.
No, I can't imagine where else you can
can
go.
I adopt a family and go?
And when you come to family camp, it's 3 meals a day, and you stay on campus, or you can choose not to. And there's all kinds of different accommodations up in Idyllwild. The website that we tell everybody to go to for that is idyllodging.com, and it has up to the minute information about what's available up in the town.
And I would just like to add, now, we can't assume that everyone knows about Idyllwild, but Idyllwild is this charming, charming town, and the campus of Idyllwild Arts is a 205-acre campus located in Strawberry Valley on the tree-lined western slopes of the San Jacinto mountain range in Southern California. And the village of Idyllwild has restaurants and shops and art galleries, and it's only about a 2.5-hour drive from here.
Oh, no, not that much. It's only about an hour and 15 minutes.
Hour and 50, okay.
Yeah,
hour
yeah.
And 50.
Yeah, it's only about 45
if you
miles.
get behind a line of traffic, sometimes it can take you. But yeah, it's I guess it says 2.5-hour drive from either the metropolitan LA or San Diego area, not from here. Yeah. So that's really great. I want to chat with Tony a little bit, and before we do, I do want to again mention the fact that he is a resident of Joshua Tree, and I'd like to just give you a brief introduction, Tony, and then I'm going to ask you about your class. But you learned the fundamentals of pottery. You're a pottery maker in particular from your grandmother, according to your bio, when you were about 7, and so you've been doing this for about 30 years to revive the fading art of olla making. What is that? O-L-L-A?
Olla is it's a Spanish word, kind of I believe it means like a hollow object, but they refer to it as the pottery.
Uh-huh.
And, yeah, my grandma got me started using commercial clay. As I got a little bit older, I figured out, hey, they weren't, getting their clay commercially, 200 to 1,000 years ago. So I started finding my own clays, and my great aunt would take us to the museums, and I saw all the old pots, and was just marveled at how elegant and they're full of volume, and round bottom pots, and how were they making round bottom pots when everything we work off is a flat table or something. So got into doing a lot of experimenting and finding my own clays and trying to experiment with those, and
well, and
a lot of trial and error.
I do want to tell my listeners too that might just be tuning in that you're talking about going to museums, but today your pottery is displayed in art galleries and museums, including the Tockwitz Canyon Museum. And I think it's important also for our listeners to know that you are sharing this knowledge to ensure that native pottery making is never lost. And you're not of Coahuila descent, but you are credited with helping to revive the art of pottery making through your experimentation. So I think that's fantastic.
Thank you very much.
And you are teaching, not only are you teaching at the Arts Academy, but you're working with the various Native American groups too to pass that on. But we are here to talk to you about your class. You have a couple of classes going on, but you're one in particular because you're going to have a Native American Arts Festival up there from July 11th to 17th. And we'll have guest speakers from various tribal nations, and you're all part of this. And what's the class that you're going to be teaching, Tony?
The pottery class is, I believe, a week-long class, and I'm going to just go from start to finish, from pretty much how the clay is processed and how to build a pot and how the tools are made. I'm going to go into how to make a fire, because you can't just flick a match to start the fire. So I want to show the old way of using 2 sticks to make a fire.
Right,
and,
right.
The firing part is about the most dangerous part of the whole
well,
process.
It sure is. And I'm looking at a picture of you here working on a pot. But the other class that you're going to be doing is certainly one that sounds just amazing to me. It's called Arrows, Quivers, and Rattles. And you're doing that with an associate, Gerald Clark, from July 17th to 18th. It's a 2-day session. So what are you going to be teaching there? If I went to this class, what would I learn?
You're going to learn how to make a cane arrow. They made them all over the country here, but in Southern California there was 2 types of arrows. There was the arrow weed, which is a solid shaft, and then there's the cane arrow, which is called Phragmites arrow cane, and it's made up of a few different parts. So you get to make an arrowhead, and then a small wooden foreshaft, and then the cane arrow, and you attach your feathers, and it's quite a process. And
I can only imagine.
Yeah, but last year we did the class, and it came out really well, and we got into one of the native magazines, Native California.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
Well, and you're also going to be teaching the ancient art of making gourd rattles that's used for the bird singing, and certainly I've had the pleasure of hearing the local bird singers, and that must be fun. How do you go about teaching that?
Yeah, that is some beautiful music there, but it's actually Gerald Clark is going to be teaching the gourd rattles. I don't teach any of the ceremonial parts of the native culture.
Gerald is Coahuila Indian from the Anza tribe.
But you're going to be part of. You're going to be there when he's teaching the rattles and participate in that.
I might
as well?
be there on Saturday, but I'm doing Saturday I'm going to do the arrow making class. I believe Sunday he's doing the gourd rattle class.
Oh, okay. So you're there on day one,
Day one.
where you're doing the arrows and the quiver. Now, what's a quiver?
The quivers out here, well, the ones that we're making are going to be made out of agave stalks, and you split them and then hollow them out, and you leave a little spot at the bottom, and then you glue it back together, and then use yucca fiber to.
Okay, but what part? What is a quiver?
The quiver is what held the arrows, so when you're on your journey, your arrows aren't.
Okay, you got the
all over
quiver.
the place.
I
Right.
saw an amazing program last night, just as an aside, about some fellow from Texas. It's supposed to be the number one marksman, and he actually showed. He had an arrow in the bullseye, and he tried 3 times, and he actually split the arrow down the center.
I've seen that. That's pretty good.
That's amazing. Now, do you do the sport yourself, or do you just teach how to make them?
I do use, what they call primitive archery stuff, but, it's pretty highly advanced when you get down to it. I do have a European-style longbow, but I also use, the sinew back and the horn-bellied bows and just the regular willow bows and juniper bows that they did use out here. And they work great. I mean, they're not the super long range or super accurate, but these guys were survivalists, and they hunted with them every day, and they worked.
Yeah, right. But your main thrust is pottery, is that right?
Yeah, pottery and flint knapping. But it's kind of hand in hand. One class I'm doing the pottery, and the next class I'm doing the flint knapping.
Mm-hmm. And what is that you just?
The flint knapping. That's,
What is that?
That is the actual making the stone arrowhead that goes on to the end of the arrow. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, so it's.
Well, this sounds amazing. I've collected arrowheads in Arizona years and years and years and years ago, when you were allowed to go around and collect these things. And I have little pieces of pottery shards and some arrowheads. Maybe I'll see you one day, and I can give you a couple of these pottery shards that I found that has some of the old designs on it. But where can I see your work?
I have some at Agua Caliente in the Indian Canyons, and at the Agua Caliente Cultural Museum, and then at Windwalkers in Joshua Tree carries some of my stuff. But mostly I pretty much just deal with the reservations, and they call me up and place orders. And
So
and
if we visited one of the reservations, then we could see some of your work in the shops?
I would say, Agua Caliente Cultural Museum would be the first stop, or up in the Indian Canyons there in Palm Springs.
And for my listeners, why don't you tell them where the Agua Caliente Cultural Center is?
That is downtown Palm Springs on Palm Canyon, across from Las Consuelas Mexican restaurant.
Mm-hmm. And when you work in pottery, do you make various sizes, or do you prefer doing the larger sizes? And what challenges you the most?
The bigger pots are the real challenge, because you have to have your clay thermally, tested to make a big pot. Because when you put a bunch of wood on top of it and light it on fire, if you don't have it made just right, it'll crack or pop. And that was one of the real tricks in learning how to make clay and do ceramics, because they made some huge pots out here.
They sure did.
Paper thin, very thin.
Right.
And if you can just imagine some woman sitting under a mesquite tree, say 500 years ago, working on one of these things around ancient Lake Cahuilla, it would have been a real sight to see. And they're just beautiful. And they traded them up, or carried them up into Joshua Tree, and the Campbell Collection has a wonderful display of pottery that is up here in Joshua Tree, but it was made along the shores of the Salton Sea, most likely, or in the lower desert.
Tony,
hundreds of years ago.
It's been great to have you here. I'm sorry that I have to interrupt you, but we all of a sudden we are out of time, and I want Jeff to very quickly, mention the website again once more of the Arts Academy, and then we have to say goodbye.
Well, as you can see, it's an amazing program. Tony's amazing. You can go to idyllwildarts.org and get all the information about the Idyllwild Arts Summer Program.